Welcome to the Lalulah podcast, real-life conversations about modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, Laura Allen, a holistic health coach and founder of Lalulah, an online platform offering natural erotica toys as well as the educational tools you need to expand your pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Hey, beautiful people, welcome back. Today, I'm bringing to you Elyce Norton. She is a transformational coach, a healer, and a body psychotherapist. And today we are talking about all things Tantra. What Tantra is, what Tantra isn't, what you can expect from deep diving into this industry, how to self-care, how to make sure that you're checking in with yourself, how to get the most out of it, what Tantra even is. So I really hope that this episode demystifies this cosmic industry and gives you the information and the tools that you need to go into it safely and empowered. Enjoy the show. Hey, girl.
Hey.
Hey. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And admittedly, this is round 2 of the episode. We've recorded this one before, but we had some technical difficulties, so we weren't able to publish it. And so we are phase 2, round 2, completely going to be open to whatever is going to come through. We just had a big discussion about it because when you record an episode and it's really, really good and you kind of just want to share it with the world, and then something happens going into the next one, you can kind of take in all of these expectations as to what it's going to be like, but we're just going to drop everything and be super present and go with what's here.
Yeah.
Right?
A bit of free flow and, oh my God, trust me that the technology failed.
Yeah, I know. It was funny. I was just like, classic.
Computer says no.
Yeah, just Elyce's technical stuff is just like, nah, it's a no. So just to give you all the listeners some context, Elyce is a very, very dear friend of mine. We have, I like to call Elyce my wife because sometimes I feel like we're actually in a marriage. We've had some hard years and we've worked through it, and something that, having Elyce on the show is actually really powerful and really meaningful to me personally, because Elyce has taught me so much about love and just to acknowledge where we're both at right now as individuals on our own journey, and to be sharing in this platform together is just such a beautiful reflection on how far we've come. So welcome, sister. I'm so grateful for you and to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Laura. Thank you, my sister. Yeah, I feel the same. It's really nice to have us both here talking about things that we're so passionate about. And of course, they're pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think another thing that Elyce and I are really mindful of in both of our businesses and our comms is that we try not to use words that can be too isolating, and we don't talk a lot about Tantra or, sacred sexuality and so on and so forth. But this episode is predominantly about exactly that, and we're not going to be shy about it. So we're going to be deep diving into the mysterious world and the cosmic everything of Tantra, what it is, how to navigate it, what our experiences have been, the pros, the cons, the risks, how to self-care. And it's a little bit more of a conversation, instead of me being in solid interview style with Elyce, we're just going to talk about both of our experiences, as we've both been kind of very deeply involved in the industry for many years now. So that's it. So I think the first question I've got for you today, girl, is what color are you today and why?
Today I am a beautiful bright blue. A bright blue, like a Mediterranean Ocean kind of blue. Yeah.
Beautiful. We've been to the Mediterranean Ocean.
We have. We indeed have.
We have. We really have.
I could never forget that.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What drew you into this industry? What drew you into working within sexuality and Tantra specifically?
Sure. Good question. And I have to say that each time I answer this question, I've got kind of a slightly different story because I decide what more I can add to that story. So I guess for me, I kind of look at it like about 3.5 years ago, I started to go through a life transition or, a change where, I've got a long history of being a bit of a party girl and liking to go out drinking and have lots of friends, a very social kind of being. And something happened or something changed within me where I just was feeling really drawn to separate myself from those things and to really turn inward and get to know myself on a deeper level. And I guess there's two kinds of change, and change sometimes comes through adversity, through a crisis or adversity. And then I think sometimes also change can come from the universe tapping you on the shoulder and saying, girlfriend, change. So in this circumstance, I feel that this is really what happened for me. It wasn't a conscious choice that I needed to change. It was just something kind of was pouring out of me and I just was yearning for something different. And I guess I have an even deeper understanding of this now, in that the mind sometimes is slower to make change because it likes to play tricks on us, or it likes habits or patterns, or to stay in what we know. And when we don't make the change, then sometimes the universe comes and gives us a big kick up the butt, or it comes through through our body in terms of illness or ailments. And that's really, really what happened to me, I guess. So I started to really separate from everything I knew and started to go to festivals by myself and just looking for something more. And at that time, I met the most beautiful man that then became my partner. And he was really a huge catalyst for me kind of merging from being a girl to a woman. So he met me right at the time where I was searching for something else, and he was such a beautiful soul that was deeply rooted in helping community and helping the world, and so in tune with himself and with his own guidance. And it kind of pushed me into a state of self-worth, like a lack of self-worth, like questioning, who am I? Who am I not to help the world or to be in service? And what am I offering? And at that stage, I was just an interior designer, which, has beauty and does help people to a certain level. But I was having this deep inquiry of like, okay, what's next? So that's when Tantra came along and I think found me. And so I found that at a beautiful little festival. I found my teacher, and I guess the rest is history, because I stepped into this workshop, thinking Tantra was all about sexuality, because that had been my previous experience of coming into contact with it many, many years prior. But I stepped into this workshop that was for all women, and we did this practice called Apologies to the Yoni. And now, without digging too deep into it, I guess it was completely life-changing for me to see the medicine that Tantra had for me. There was 50 women in that room who went through this process of releasing pain, abandonment, sexual abuse or the times that they haven't really spoken up for themselves. And 50 out of 50 women were having some form of huge release, cathartic, traumatic release, related to their sexuality and related to their relationship with their yoni. And at that stage in my life, there was no part of me knew that that work was possible or that that work existed in the world. And to be in that room and to share that experience with all those women, it was just, this light went off inside of me, and I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I want to help illuminate this path for other women and men, that there is so much that we can do to alchemize our experiences of love and sexuality and relationship dynamics. And yeah, so it really started there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I also just love what you said in the beginning about, sometimes change coming from adversity, and sometimes it just coming because the universe is like, it's time, and I think that's, I love pointing that out because, it's a pretty common story. It's like, oh, I hit rock bottom and then the clouds parted and the sun came out and then two eagles flew above my head sort of moments, like you hear of those. And then sometimes it's actually I was already living my best life and then I just got called to introduce this new thing to make it even better. So, I really like that. And yeah, for me, it was really similar in a way and completely different at the same time. But I think for me, it was this curiosity for more. I definitely was reaching a point in my life where I was so frustrated with and just feeling out of control, out of control in my career, out of control in my finances, my relationships, and definitely my sex life. It just felt like everything just felt really overwhelmed. And I knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to have a meaningful, beautiful life. But at the time, I just couldn't figure out how. And it was also around that time that I realized that I had some learning to do. And so it just kind of all started with this fire in the belly, that little those small, dwindling flames of intuition when you haven't necessarily been deeply in touch with it for so long. It's kind of speaking at you there's more to life than this and you can access it and I'm going to show you how, and then that sort of started the journey. For me, I didn't go straight into sexuality. I went into food and I studied health coaching and nutrition, but it's just all so holistic. I mean, sexuality is not about our genitals and in the bedroom. It's about our environment and our lifestyle and how we nourish our body and who we are as individuals. And I think going back to what you said again, it's people go to Tantra because they think it's going to be here are the 5 top tips on how to give a good blowjob or a tantric blowjob or something, it's it can be very marketed, as a sex-based practice, which, sex sells and I get it. It can be a good hook. Absolutely. I mean, that drew me to it a lot, but I think once you start really diving into Tantra, it is not like that at all.
No.
Not at all. So why don't we talk about what Tantra is or what our experience with Tantra is?
Yeah, sure. So you're so right in that regard, but I guess I was drawn to Tantra through sexuality. And, that was, the apologies to the yoni, that was what drew me in. And that was what needed to be healed first, in that moment to kind of lock me in, to be okay, yes, this is what I want to do. But then when I actually joined in and did a 2.5-year course to become a Tantra facilitator. And in that time, I was rudely awakened that Tantra was much, much, much more than sexuality. It's really like deep inner alchemy, and it's like jumping into a fire and burning away all the parts of yourself that don't serve. And so, yeah, it can be dramatic and painful, and it can be full of pleasure and love and expansion. So if we look at the word Tantra, if we split it up into Tan and Tra, Tan is expansion and Tra is liberation. So Tantra is essentially the practice of expanding in order to liberate. So what that looks like, there's hundreds of different tools and techniques, meditations, reflections. There's lots of work that we can do that ultimately lead us to expansion and liberation. So if we break that down, I guess with Tantra, we are alchemizing our experiences of life to create understanding and meaning, and to be able to, I guess, come free of the shackles of conditioning or patterning or behaviors that we've picked up along the way through family dynamics, the relationship, society, and just coming back to pure self, or like a deeper understanding of self where it's immovable. Our values, our boundaries, our sense of self is completely immovable. And that to me is what Tantra is all about.
Yeah, Tantra, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's been the most profound journey into understanding who I am as a person, the psychology behind me, and also a really beautiful understanding of where I've come from in terms of my childhood and all of this kind of developmental stuff that has given me a really beautiful toolkit to navigate love, life, and relationships moving forward, because I know myself so deeply. I know if I'm reacting to something from a place of fear or wounding, I know, I can call myself out on my own stuff, and I can really show up to the world in a really, really like strong position within myself, because, yeah, I've just, it's such an asset. It's such an asset to like walk out the door in the morning, even if I'm having a bad day, and go, I know who I am, and I know what I can bring. I know what I can bring to the table. And I think boundaries is another amazing tool in that toolkit that I learned so much about, like simply saying no to someone. Like, I remember when I first started going to Tantra workshops and doing consent and boundary tasks, exercises, which there are many, many different ways to do it. But I think like a really common one is you paired up with someone, one of you requests to do something, can I read you a poem? And you have to say no. And then that person says, thank you for looking after yourself. And it's, and it, as I say it, it sounds really simple, and, like, sure, you're just saying no. But in practice, when you're sitting opposite someone, looking at them in the eye, and they ask you to do something and you say no to them, all sorts of stuff like can come up in your body. And it's like, oh, can I say no? And if you're someone who has had weak or loose boundaries in the past, or, have really struggled to speak up for yourself, then, it can be really, really powerful to practice saying no. And then vice versa, practice receiving a no, practice saying yes, like from a place of groundedness and, knowing that that is truly what you want. And you can say yes, and you say yes from a place of fullness, because you know how to say no,
Yeah. And look, I can relate to that in areas completely outside of the realms of the bedroom or relationships, friendships. I can relate to it even in a business sense. And that's how much Tantra has helped me in my life. It's like through all aspects, including business. It's like the learning my own boundaries helped me immensely through owning my own. Once upon a time, I had my own interior design business. And when I understood that my boundaries were just being crossed left, right, and center by my clients because I hadn't put the correct boundaries in place. So of course they're walking all over me like a rug. So I guess this is where we tap into our healthy inner masculine, and he can help us set up those beautiful boundaries and structures that create that safety for us to flow. So, when I started to set boundaries of like, I don't answer emails or phone calls before 10 a.m. in the morning, and I certainly don't pick up phone calls or emails after 5 p.m., and just starting to put little structures in place, even looking at my calendar on, a monthly or weekly or daily level and just going, okay, this time is for me and me only. And I will take on only these roles or jobs in this one day or in this week. And just having that kind of structure changed my life and my ability to apply myself wholeheartedly to my business, because I was coming from a place of being like balanced and grounded rather than like
totally
overstretched.
And it's such a big piece, like owning.
So, I mean, that's just one beautiful example.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's so big. And I love how you're touching on safety there. And by having these boundaries, you're creating this kind of container, this like safe container for you to flow and to be who you are and so on and so forth. And I think it's so important to have really well exercised boundaries, because it means that we can go out into the world feeling confident, radiant, turned on, sexy, no matter what that looks like for you, and own it and know that you're safe in your body because you know exactly how to protect your energy, how to stand up for what you need. You know how to set the boundaries that you need to respect yourself. And, you're right. It is relevant to all areas of our life, not just the bedroom. Absolutely.
And yeah, there's a great analogy that I use, and I can't remember where it even came from. So, kudos to whoever it was that told me, but I really love it and it stuck with me for years. And it's our own inner masculine is essentially like the riverbed. It creates the foundation and the safety for the river, which is the feminine, to flow. So within the riverbed, we can just flow and be alive and just, go where we need to go. And that beautiful masculine riverbed is just providing the structure, the safety, and the direction. Yeah. So within Tantra, I believe that we've kind of like, one of the really beautiful things that I've embodied is using my own internal, inner feminine and inner masculine to create balance and harmony in my life on a day-to-day level. And so I once read as well that like you've reached enlightenment once you can switch between your masculine and feminine as if you're choosing between a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And I really love that, because it's for me, it's very true of how helpful it's been in saying, okay, here is my structure of what I need to be safe, to feel heard, to, here the boundaries that I need to put in place, or here's the direction, being really clear on where I'm heading, being really clear on who I am and what I need. Putting things in place to support yourself, essentially, being the masculine. And then the feminine is like, okay, I need to nurture, I need to flow, I need to soften, I need to be creative. I need to just go with the flow of the day instead of pushing, like pushing shit uphill. So you can see how they work together to create this beautiful harmony where you're creating safety to be you.
Yeah. I love it. Totally. with it, like this balance between the masculine and feminine within ourselves, and then the balance between the masculine and feminine, like out in the world as well, like all about it, more kind of like supporting each other to rise together as opposed to like emasculating or, you know, woman hating and all this kind of stuff. Just getting that balance within ourselves. And then,
it's celebrating.
Having it ripple out.
It's celebrating the innate difference between masculine and feminine and utilizing it within ourselves as well as within relationships.
Yeah.
And out in the world. It's a duality and how perfectly they create this union and balance.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's a good topic actually, like polarity, which is something that is focused on a lot in Tantra, especially if we are going to talk about the kind of sexuality and relationship side of Tantra with this whole masculine and feminine, blah, blah, blah. How, it's a really big piece to make sure that you're constantly mindful of the polarity that you're creating in relationships. So if you are in like a heteronormative relationship with a man who identifies as a masculine man and you're a woman who identifies as a feminine woman, yet neither one of you are really embodying those characteristics and archetypes. And like, yeah, of course, we've all got a little bit of both within us and it's all about the balance. And sometimes we have days where we're more one than the other and that's totally fine. But if you are wanting and craving some kind of, you know, if you're planning a sex date or what have you, and you come home to your man and your intention is you just want him to ravish you, yet you come home from work, you've got your boss babe pants on and you're just like running all of this like big masculine energy, then there's not going to be a polarity there. That magnetism won't be there because you're sort of two positive poles hitting up against each other, you know, and it's the same for both of us. It's like taking responsibility for how we're showing up in our relationship so that we can have that harmony and balance together.
Yeah, so I guess we just look at it as simply as opposites attract. You know, if we're two the same, which is often what happens in long-term relationships, we become so similar, we'll have great relationships, not so great sexual lives. So coming back to the analogy of taking a sip of, you know, choosing between feminine and masculine like you would choose between a cup of tea or coffee, it's the same. It's like when you walk through the door after being at work all day, you've got a choice. You've got a choice how you walk through that door. There's one of my beautiful mentors, Alison Armstrong. I really recommend looking at or listening to some of her podcasts or looking at her work. But she says this gorgeous thing where, you know, she comes home to her husband after a long day at working in the office full of men, where she's the boss lady, directing, leading, managing. And she actually spends her time in her car driving home, she puts on her lipstick and she softens listening to feminine music and she sings her heart out. And, you know, she takes off items of her clothes that are that, like, I guess, more masculine or keeps her feeling linked to that role that she's just walked out of. And she just softens and does some beautiful breathing in the car, or a little meditation before she goes home. Because then when she walks in the door, she's soft. She's an invitation to her husband. And I think that's really beautiful. And I'm not for any second saying that you can't be whoever you need to be in the moment. It's about choosing what you want to experience in that moment with your partner. You know, choosing, I want to have that kind of beautiful sexual connection with my partner. I want to connect intimately and deeply. Then what we know we need to do is to pop into the opposing polarity, and into the opposite polarity, I should say, create the duality between the two. And, you know, this is coming from someone, I was brought up by a single mother, and she was, you know, for sure the lioness that wore all of the hats. You know, she was the mother, she was the father. And so I feel like I grew up with that kind of mentality of leading, directing, and being super, super, super independent. And for the younger years of my life, I was attracting men that didn't really know where they wanted to go in life, or a bit wishy-washy, or they wanted whatever I wanted. And I was getting annoyed at that. I was getting frustrated saying, why do I always attract these guys, these like hippie men that don't know what they want in life? And the truth of it is like, because I was wearing the pants. Although I was a feminine woman, you know, dressed feminine and was feminine in many, many ways, I guess it came second nature to me to lead and direct, and I know what I want. And you know that about me. Like, I know exactly what I want, and I'm not afraid to go after it.
Yeah.
But through Tantra, I realized that that's all a choice. You can choose to soften and let somebody else step up. You can choose how you show up in relationship in any moment, because what you're focusing on is actually what you desire to create between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't mean to say that we have to, like, you know, quit our jobs and go back to the kitchen. It's not what we're saying at all. It's just like, it's just being mindful of the energy that you're bringing when you come home or when you're going into an interaction with your partner, you know, and it's so relevant as well. Like, well, for turn on, I mean, I was at a sexual wellness event last night talking to a group of really, really beautiful young women, and a lot of them were talking about how their partner doesn't turn them on anymore, and lower libido and stuff like that. And a big thing that I wanted to talk to them is just like, it is not solely up to your partner to arouse you. You know, I mean, this is totally like, this is so multidimensional, and we could talk about this particular point forever, but I call it my goddess time, right? So it's, you know, I run a business. Like, I have to be in my masculine sometimes, but I make it, even when I'm not seeing my partner, to be honest, at the end of the day, I love doing a really beautiful meditation to bring me out of that drive, bring me out of that go, go, go mentality, and sink me back into my like juicy, sensual, feminine essence, because that's where the magic is for me. I'm a feminine woman, and that's where I'm really happy. So I have to consciously go out of my way to bring myself back into that space. And if my partner's coming over, you know, I love to get turned on before he even walks in the door. Do you know what I mean? I love to dance and meditate on my womb and like get into my body and visualize all this pleasure energy running through me, so that I can meet him with this just deliciousness, you know. And then whether that leads to lovemaking or not, it doesn't matter. But what it does always do is it invites this sense of intimacy and physical intimacy as well that is unique to me and my partner, you know, and like connection in a deeper and more meaningful way, instead of being what we were talking about before, just like two heads butting up against each other, you know.
And just for any listeners out there that are kind of feeling uncomfortable with the terms masculine and feminine, it's like, you can, like, it's not about gender at all. It's about your innate essence. And so each of us will be able to relate to having an innate essence. And so you could be feminine but have your innate essence be masculine, or vice versa. So it's, yeah, I just wanted to be inclusive in that regard, that it's absolutely not gender. And so sometimes I actually change the language, if I'm running a workshop or even writing a blog. Sometimes I change it to active and receptive, because I think that helps just bring some clarity to what it is that we're talking about. But I can completely relate to what you were saying, and that, you know, I'm a really feminine woman, and that is where I'm most happy. And so I carve out time in my daily life, you know. For me, I'm more of a morning person. I like to spend the first like 2 hours of the morning just completely in my feminine zone. I'll be dancing. I will be like sensual in front of the mirror. I will meditate. I will do some kind of beautiful yin yoga. I'll journal. I'll be creative and sit in the sunshine, just, you know, nurturing myself with delicious food. And that is the time where I come back to myself, and the time that I'm in my full feminine flow, and that sets me up for the day, you know, creating that beautiful balance and harmony so that my whole day isn't this like rigid kind of get shit done mode, which sometimes we have to be in when we're out in the world running a business, you know, looking after families, whatever it is you do in the world. You have to be able to wear both feminine and masculine. So like, how do you introduce the two into your life? Like, how do you carve out time for that space?
Yeah. And it all starts with awareness and then experimentation. It's a constant dance. It's ever changing. You know, the rituals that I do one day vary from the next, and it's just a constant checking in with who you are now, what you need now, being honest about who you are and where you're at, and just going with that. So yeah, absolutely. Polarity is a really, really big thing that Tantra has brought into my life. So we've got boundaries, polarity. I guess another thing that I wanted to talk about is like energy, because Tantra is very energetic. And I feel like for me personally, Tantra has given me a whole new set of tools to connect with people without, you know, sex or physical intimacy. It's given me this kind of awareness of my energy, how to protect it, how to share it, and how to acknowledge other people's beauty and energy. And yeah, like, well, energy is a big piece. I love talking about energetic sex, but it's, yeah, help me out, girl. What do we want to say about energy?
Well, I guess one avenue I might go down first is that Tantra is really, what I love about it is it's a spirituality for sure, but it's very focused on being in the body. You know, I think a lot of other spiritual practices kind of get you out of the body and into the spirit realm, up and out, over your head. And Tantra is really about the human experience, and that's what I love about it. And so simply the belief that sexual energy is life force energy, and and by activating life force energy and keeping it in our bodies and, you know, circulating that beautiful energy throughout our bodies throughout the day, we're able to create more vitality and more energy and more creativity for ourselves. And in turn, that is a ripple effect of the way others experience our energy in the world, in our relationships, friendships, or even interactions at work. So I think that Tantra has also really like helped me hone in and like tune into my body in terms of it has its whole own language where it tells me, or at least draws attention to, what's going on. So I might be having a conversation with somebody, and at the same time I'm tuning into my body, and I often have like tingling in my like solar plexus area if I'm having a conversation that doesn't feel in full alignment with me. If there's something in a conversation that I'm having that doesn't feel right, that I need to like backtrack and gain more clarity, or that I'm not feeling heard, you know, so I can learn to tune into my body and go, okay, and take a moment, breathe into that and say, okay, something's not right. Do you mind if I just repeat what I'm hearing, or, you know, mull over something a little bit more? And so to kind of hone back into what I'm trying to say, it's like, I think that being really attuned to the energy that's moving through your body and the secret language of your body has been completely transformational in the way that I can communicate with others and the way that I understand myself in any given situation.
Yeah, I love that. I guess I'm feeling like that's kind of it for energy. I feel like we could probably talk for hours about going into it deeper and deeper, but maybe let's just wrap it there because there's so many other things that I want to talk about. I guess the next thing that's really on top for me is, what are some of the things people should know before diving into this industry?
Sure. Look, I think that for me, Tantra has been completely transformational and life-changing, and at the same time, in many instances, my journey of or self-development was probably a lot harder than it actually needed to be. And by that I mean, you never really know or can prepare for fully what is going to come up when you start committing to your own personal growth. And so, trauma may come up, but can you fully prepare for it beforehand? Yeah, maybe, but not completely, because until we're in the experience, we have no idea what we were going to be in for. And so I can tell you retrospectively what I would have done, which is I would have definitely had a therapist alongside of myself, like at least weekly checking in, because when you're committing to, like I did 2.5 years of study through Tantra, you're bringing up you're bringing up ghosts from the past, you're shaking hands with your demons, and it's like consistent sieving for gold, And to be diving into those places on a daily level, like, I don't know that that's the healthiest thing for the human psyche if you're doing it alone, or if you're not having the support that you need to further process the stuff that's coming up. So for sure I studied in a part of 21 other people, and I had a brilliant mentor or teacher who was there to support me on retreats and on phone calls when I needed, but it was really, there needed to be another layer of support there for me. It needed to be somebody outside of that world that was able to reflect back to me and help me make sense of things that were coming up for me. Because I guess if you're working with trauma, or, you're bringing up or dealing with trauma, sometimes you can get caught in
just in it,
in that experience, or in that age potentially that you're experiencing it. Yeah. And sometimes you're not fully conscious of the next step forward that's best for you. Sometimes you can get stuck in a bit of a black hole, ruminating about the past and what could have been different, or what happened to you, or, a bit of the victim state. And you need somebody outside of the experience or the group that you're studying with that can hold you accountable and that can help bring you back to this level-headed present time and space.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's...
So, yeah, in retrospect, that's 100% what I would have done. And
yeah. Oh my God. I think it's so important to have a psychotherapist in general. I mean, perhaps not all the time. Well, look, I'm all about therapy. I'm all about it. But yeah, definitely when you're diving into a lot of these alternative holistic healing modalities, I feel like it's really important to get that professional, not that this Tantra stuff isn't professional, but it's more like just having a way more objective opinion and someone who can bring you out, because it is a lot of like really somatic body stuff, and you can be like really going into the depths of your psyche and just like unpacking the darkest boxes and the complete like crevices of of your being. And it is so important to get help. I think for me personally, I had a slightly slower and steady experience into Tantra, but it was still very like all encompassing for me. And I feel like it didn't need to be so serious. And now I'm at a point where integration is everything. And I can, I really, in fact, this is so on top for me today specifically. I feel like I am done in a way. I feel honestly like I'm done. I have done so much work. I've done so many workshops. I have experimented, explored to the outer realms of my inner universe. And I am done. Like, I am ready to integrate. I want to play. I want to have fun, because you're right. Like, I don't feel like it's healthy to be, in that much self-inquiry all the time. It's addictive. It's not integratable into day-to-day life, because you're constantly having to process these huge emotions and this stuff that happens. So I think it's really important to maybe do it in bite sizes in a way, and be really mindful and self-care. And when you go to these things or these retreats or these workshops, or you're working with a body worker, it's like, it's okay to say no, or to be like, I don't want to do this right now. I've had enough, I just want to go home. Like, the amount of workshops that I've walked out of over this last year, because I just feel so done, I feel really like, I don't need to be here anymore. I've got the skills, I've got the lessons, and now I'm so ready to just move on with my life, it's really, it's something that is so beautiful and has changed my life. Like, Tantra has completely transformed me and my life in a way that I can barely even explain. And I feel like I could cry talking about it. And it's so, so beautiful. And my life has a level of richness that is just, I regret nothing, because what I have now is just, I'm in love with my life now. But yeah, there comes a point where it's time to take everything that you've learned and just actually integrate it and just move on,
Yeah. And I think that's where, Tantra is a way of life. I don't think it's a specific, doctrine that you have to do all of this deep inner work. I think it's there for us to learn to alchemize and learn to kind of come back to self and identify who we are, and to strip away what's not serving. And when you're done, when you're full up. And when you're full up, you've got these beautiful tools in your tool belt that you can use to respond to life every day, that you can use to be the best version of yourself every day. So it's like this beautiful roadmap or blueprint for life, to be in full alignment with yourself. There's also, we all have different levels or abilities to handle stress. And, if we're signing up to a Tantra course, I think something really important to consider is has this teacher kind of woven in or considered breaks and support and how have they broken up the course so that you're not spending a whole year on digging up your deepest, darkest stuff. So, for example, the way that my course was set up was that the very first thing that we did was we dealt with self-love and self-care and self-responsibility. And so that really set the foundations for us to be able to, tap into those tools when we're going through a hard time. So it's kind of like you can't go and build a sandcastle on the beach and expect it to be there the next day. Instead, you can build a sandcastle on top of a foundation, and it will withstand any kind of, crazy waves or ripple effects. So what we need to do first is build this foundation of deep understanding and nourishment and support for ourselves that are always there for us. And so, for example, I have a 5-step plan that I use, and maybe you can kind of share if you've got one too, but I've got a 5-step plan I go to if something's ruffled my feathers, maybe a breakup, or, maybe a project hasn't come into fruition, or whatever the issue is. It's like I have this thing that I can access that I know will bring me back to center. So, for example, I will express with myself, for myself, any emotion that needs to move through me. I'll cry, or I'll be angry, or I'll just let whatever emotion needs to move. And then I'll have a bath. Something about being in a body of water and just feeling really nourished, and having candles and beautiful music, and just like tuning back into me, with my hand on my heart, my hand on my womb, and just breathe and be. And then maybe moving my body, like dancing or going for a jog, or maybe I'm hitting a beanbag, but just moving energy through my body. Because sometimes we need to shift and move energy in order for us to have like a more clarity or access to a different consciousness. And then after that time and space, like I might do some journaling just to gain further clarity of where I'm at, what I need to do, some direction, what my feelings are. And then the fifth thing I'll do is call out for support. Call out for support from a girlfriend, a loved one, and just ask for them to hear you, to hold space for you. You might want to reflect your process to them or what happened. But can you see the difference of calling out for support in that way opposed to calling out for support as the first port of call? And I'm not saying you can't ever do that, or you shouldn't ever do that, because, oh my gosh, there's times when that's literally all that's available to me is like, call a girlfriend now. But as we become more and more and more in tune with ourselves, and we are used to using these tools, the more accessible they are for us to access the deeper clarity we need to deal with the situation. Yeah. So sometimes when we go straight to calling for support, or straight for that phone call, we can find ourselves completely exhausted by the end of it, and probably exhausting our friend on the other side of the phone, and maybe not even being any closer to that calm that we need to move forward. So, I'm a strong believer in that we really have everything we need inside of ourselves to heal. We just need to give ourselves the time and space to feel it and to access that deep, like, inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Do you have your
totally.
kind of like 5 steps?
I don't have a 5 steps, but it's funny because I'm like fully on board 100%, and then I'm also totally not at the same time. And I'll tell you why, because like, sometimes I did it to you a couple of months ago. I went through a crisis, and the first thing that I did was call you. I was just like, I need to talk to a girlfriend right now. And, that's totally fine. And then even today, I went through a really, really beautiful experience. A girlfriend sent me a message. I got triggered. And instead of, like, my instant response was, I want to call this person, or I want to talk to her, or I really wanted to like go external and distract myself and just like talk to somebody else, or I kind of just wanted to offload everything that I was feeling basically. But instead, I went through a really beautiful process, and I just came home and I literally just sat in my bed and I just felt it all. And then I started journaling to get clarity. And it's beautiful. And I cried, but it's been so sensual and delicious, and I'm getting my moon soon. So of course, just like the magnitude of my emotions are so profound and real. And I just love being in this space because I feel so vulnerable and sensitive. And, there is a sadness about it, but I just love it. Like I I find it so delicious and sensual in it. And I do feel empowered because of course I'm still going to call my friend who I wanted to call earlier and talk to her, but I needed to have this process because it's shifted that trigger and it's shifted that energy and it's given me freedom, essentially. It's like, it's given me this realization. It's given me this moment of clarity that I needed so that I can move on. And it's really important and beautiful to be able to hold space for yourself like that. And I was having an amazing conversation with someone, recently about like safety in relationship. And this is such an interesting topic, and it's one that I'm like fiery and passionate about. And how, you know, yes, we can we have everything within ourselves and we can, you know, be self-reliant and we can fill up our own self-love cup and we can create safety within ourselves by having rocking boundaries and stuff. But there is no amount of affirmations and self-loving and masturbation that we can do in the world to make up for the fact that we need that from other people as well. And safety, specifically in relationship and holding space, is something that two people create together, you know? And I just we do need it from the other person as well. So do you kind of get what I mean? I feel like a lot of people can kind of get caught up in a situation where they're not being met equally by their spouse or by their partner, and like thinking that they just need to like fill themselves up to the point where they don't need it from another person. And I'm just like, actually no, like, no. This is it. You know, it's, yeah, I think I've said enough. I'm a bit rambly today. Moon mind, moon brain.
Yeah, look, I think I completely blame it on the moon. Look, I think that there's beauty in both, and I think you can't have one without the other. I think we can't underestimate the beauty of a friend or a lover that supports us, and even if that's them supporting us, to trust ourselves. You know? Union, it makes us feel deeply supported, and we are deeply supported, and sometimes we need to get out of our own little heads or our own little boxes to shift energy or gain a grasp on a different consciousness that's just simply not available to us. You know, through Tantra, I think that I've been able to see some of my tendencies, my tendencies of how I act when I'm hurt or when I'm experiencing pain. And through shining a light on my tendencies, I've been able to see how they haven't served me or helped me in many ways, and consciously change them. And what I'm meaning by that is that, like, in previous times, my tendency is that if I'm going through hardship, I kind of turn inward and push away and deal with it alone. You know, I kind of go inward and get caught in my mind and try to deal with the big, horrible world all by myself. And it's not the way to do it, because you can get completely caught in your own loop and completely caught in your set way of thinking. And sure, you can expand and reflect, but you only have reached to a specific level of consciousness sometimes. And so just by sharing and opening up and just being heard, it can simply shift energy and allow you to kind of move out of that darkness. You know, sometimes just by telling someone how you're feeling, and without them needing to give you advice or without them needing to change or fix anything, just by telling another soul what you're experiencing, it can make you feel so much better. So much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I guess reflecting back to what you're saying, I think it's completely integral to have both in our lives, and that's what balance is, I guess. It's just seeing when we're over depending on one or the other, and that's when we can reflect and make change and consider other ways of being.
It also allows like freedom and spaciousness. Like I'm talking specifically within relationship here. So if I needed my partner to support me all the time because I didn't have the skills to do it myself, then that's almost like, you know, my partner doesn't have a choice in that. Whereas if we're both coming together as two self-sovereign, self-reliant, I guess, individuals who, you know, self-care and love for ourselves and, you know, making sure that we're happy is our priority, then we can choose to love and support each other. And it's so much more meaningful because we're constantly choosing to be there for the other person. You know, it's like there's just a total difference there from that, coming from that place of lack and need as opposed to coming from a place of wholeness and still needing, but, you know, just like.
Yeah, but you're sharing from an overflow instead of a lack.
Yes. Okay. What's that?
So you're sharing from an overflow instead of a lack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got some quick fire questions for you to wrap up. So the first one is, how do you cultivate more pleasure in your life?
I guess that I like to weave pleasure into my daily life, even if it's kind of for 10 minutes or sometimes it might be for 2 hours. And so the way I cultivate it is by leaving time and space to myself to be sensual, to connect either sexually or just by touching my body in a beautiful way. It could be just taking a little bit longer in the shower and feeling the water fall over my body and like feeling the sheets of my bed and on my skin and the way that feels, or breathing in through my yoni and spreading that energy through my whole body. Yeah.
Okay. So next question is, what's one thing you've learned about self-love recently?
I think, such a juicy question because it's something that I'm always working on, I guess. But something I've learned about it recently is learning to tune into my body on a whole new level and just recognizing that our body is our best friend. You know, we might have pain or ailments or things, you know, health issues, but instead of kind of looking at them as a burden or being frustrated at, you know, our bodies for kind of being in pain or creating disharmony for us, kind of just looking at it as a best friend and saying thank you for that message. Like, yes, this is painful, or yes, this is frustrating, but like you're telling me something that I need to focus and hone in on. And by listening and having that kind of relationship to my body and feelings within my body, just providing myself with a whole new level of love. Yeah. So like a really easy example of that is, you know, if I've got pain in my foot and my foot is consistently kind of causing pain when I'm walking, instead of kind of getting work done on my foot and being like, God damn foot, I can't wait till you're better, I could be giving my foot a loving massage in the evenings and instilling love and thanks into my foot for the way it moves me through the day and gives me direction and all that it kind of offers me. So just like changing my perspective on like messages that my body sends me, I guess.
I love that. It's a really nice reminder for me too right now. Thank you. Thank you. Final question is, what has been the most impactful book that you've ever read?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's The Way of the Superior Man.
Absolutely.
I love this book. Yeah. You know, I've read the book. I've listened to the audiobook, and I'm an audiobook kind of girl. And, you know, I pull up outside of my house and it's still going, and I sit inside my car for another 40 minutes because I can't stop listening.
Honestly, it's the best. Like, I think I've read it about 3 times now, and I also have it on audiobook, and I just like put on a random chapter in the car and like have a go over it. Like, it's so good. It's like my favorite song at the moment, you know? It's just amazing. And okay, please share. Like, I've also given the book to all of my partners, like lovers, just like I buy this book for every single meaningful man that enters my life. So I know you've got a story on this, and I'm dying for you to share it.
Yeah. So I mean, right at this time of reading this book, and it was just deeply resonating with me on all levels and changing my perspective on love, sex, and relationships. And I met this lovely man, who kind of wanted to take me out on a date, and I actually simply replied of like, sure, read the book, The Way of the Superior Man, and when you're done, let me know and we'll have a date. So it was kind of like a prerequisite to go on a date with me.
So when you told me that story, I was just like, I love you for doing that.
Yeah, but it was like, I mean, there was a part of me that was like, oh gosh, did I just do that? And then the other part of me that's like high-fiving myself going, yeah, girl. And it was actually a really beautiful experience for both of us. And he was completely committed. He read the whole book in a week, and he started to share with me, you know, bits of the book that were like profoundly changing his perspective on things or shedding light on things. And actually, a really beautiful part of this story is that he now runs a little men's book club on The Way of the Superior Man. So, yeah, I think it's had a huge positive effect on his life and all the men that he's shared it with.
Yeah, yeah. I'm yet to meet a man who hasn't thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah, if you're out there, if you're listening, get involved. I'll put the link to it in the show notes. In fact, I mean, it always gets mentioned on my show. Like,
and it's
so many people want to read it.
Yes, it's kind of The Way of the Superior Man. It's like yeah. And it's essentially kind of targeted towards men, but it's good for all of us to understand and celebrate the difference between feminine and masculine.
Yeah, absolutely. So it ties in really nicely to this episode. Thank you so much, girlfriend. I just love and adore you so much. If people want to find you, how can they find you online?
Sure. So they can find me through Facebook, or they can find me on my website. So my website is just elycenorton.com. So ELYCENORTON. There will be a link in the under the potty for you to click through to. Or my Facebook page. So you can just find that. It's Elyce Norton. There'll also be a link. Just make it much, much easier.
Absolutely. Fab.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you on the show.
Gorgeous. Thank you for thinking of me. And it's just, I always love chatting to you about all these juicy topics. And, you know, I think we could go on forever.
I mean, yeah, we do talk about this for days.
Yeah,
this is our life.
Sorry for the overly long podcast. I think we've got about another 10 to do by the sounds of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's just like keep them coming. Keep the potties coming, because we're good. We're good together.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to share it with someone who you think could benefit from hearing it too. You can also sign up for Lalulah news and stay up to date with all the juicy content that we only share on email. And I want to take a moment to honor you for following your curiosity and prioritizing your pleasure in this way. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.